Canto 6. The city decorated. Then Rama bathed in order dew. His mind from worldly thoughts withdrew, and with his large-eyed wife besought Nary a letter 1E47, as a votary ought. Upon his head the brimming cup of holy oil he lifted up, then placed within the kindled fire the offering to that heavenly sire. And as he sipped the remnant prayed to him for blessing and for aid. Then with still lips and tranquil mind with his Vidhin he reclined, in VISH letter 1E47 US chapel, on a bed where holy grass was duly spread. While still the princes every thought the God supreme, NARAY, a letter 1E47, sought. One watch remained the night to close when Rama from his couch arose, and bade the men and maids adorn his palace for the solemn morn. He heard the bards and heralds raise auspicious strains of joy and praise, and breath devout, with voice restrained, the hymn for morning rites ordained, then, with his head in reverence bowed, praised Madhu's conquering foe aloud, and, in pure linen robes arrayed, the priests to raise their voices prayed. Obedient to the summons, they proclaimed to all the festal day. The Brahmins' voices, deep and sweet, resounded through the crowded street, and echoed through Ayodhyá went by many a loud-toned instrument. Then all the people joyed to hear that Rama with his consort dear had fasted till the morning light in preparation for the rite. Swiftly the joyful tidings through Ayodhya's crowded city flew, and soon as dawn appeared, each man to decorate the town began. In all the temples bright and fair as white clouds towering in the air, in streets, and where the crossways met, where holy fig trees had been set in open square in sacred shade, where merchants, shops their wealth displayed on all the mansions of the great, and householders of wealth and state, where the people loved to meet, where a tree adorned the street, gay banners floated to the wind, and ribbons round the staves were twined. Then clear the singers' voices rang, as, charming mind and ear, they sang. Here players shone in bright attire, there dancing women swelled the choir. Each with his friend had much to say of Rama's consecration day, yea, even children, as they played at cottage doors beneath the shade. The royal street with flowers was strown which loving hands in heaps had thrown, and here and there rich incense lent its fragrance to the garland's scent, and all was fresh and fair and bright in honor of the coming rite. With careful foresight to illume with borrowed blaze the midnight gloom, the crowds erected here, and their trees in each street gay lamps to bear. The city thus from side to side in festal guise was beautified. The people of the town who longed to view the rite together thronged, and filling every court and square praised the good king in converse there, our high-souled king. He throws a grace on old Ikshvaku's royal race. He feels his years, increasing weight, and makes his son associate. Great joy to us, the choice will bring of Rama for our Lord and King. The good and bad to him are known, and long will he protect his own. No pride his prudent breast may swell most just, he loves his brothers well, and to us all that love extends, cherished as brothers and as friends. Long may our Lord in life remain, good Dasaratha, free from stain, by whose most gracious favor we Rama anointed king shall see. Such were the words the townsmen spoke heard by the gathering countryfolk, who from the south, north, east, and west, stirred by the joyful tidings pressed. For by their eager longing led to Rama's consecration, sped the villagers from every side, and filled Ayodhya's city wide. This way and that way strayed the crowd, while rose a murmur long and loud, as when the full moon floods the skies and oceans, waves with thunder rise. That town, like Indra's city fair, while peasants thronged her ways, tumultuous roared like ocean, where each flood-born monster plays. Canto 7. Manthara's Lament. It chanced a slave-born handmaid, bred with Queen Kaikeyí, fancy-led, mounted the stair and stood upon the terrace like the moon that shone. Thence Manthara at ease surveyed Ayodhyá to her eyes displayed, where water cooled the royal street, where heaps of flowers were fresh and sweet, and costly flags and pennons hung on roof and tower their shadow flung, with covered ways prepared in haste, and many an awning newly placed, with sandal-scented streams bedewed, thronged by a new-bathed multitude, whose streets were full of Brahmin bands with wreaths and sweetmeats in their hands. Loud instruments their music raised, and through the town, where'er she gazed, the doors of temples glittered white, and the maid marveled at the sight of Rama's nurse who, standing by gazed with a joy-expanded eye in robes of purest white attired. The wondering damsel thus inquired, "Does Rama's mother give away rich largesse to the crowds today, on some dear object fondly bent, or blessed with measureless content? What mean these signs of rare delight on every side that meet my sight? Say, will the king with joy elate some happy triumph celebrate?" The nurse, with transport uncontrolled, her glad tale to the humpback told. "Our lord the king tomorrow morn will consecrate his eldest born, and raise, in Pushya's favoring hour, Prince Rama to the royal power." As thus the nurse her tidings spoke, rage in the humpback's breast awoke. Down from the terrace, like the head of high Kailas's hill, she sped. Sin in her thoughts, her soul aflame, where Queen Kaikeyí slept she came. "Why sleepest thou?" she cried. "Arise, peril is near, unclose thine eyes." Ah, heedless queen, too blind to know what floods of sin above thee flow. Thy boasts of love and grace are o'er, thine is the show and nothing more. His favor is an empty cheat, a torrent dried by summer's heat. Thus by the artful maid addressed in cruel words from raging breast, the queen, sore troubled, spoke in turn, "What evil news have I to learn? That mournful eye, that altered cheek of sudden woe or danger speak." Such were the words Kaikeyí said. Then Manthara, her eyeballs red with fury, skilled with treacherous art to grieve yet more her lady's heart, from Rama in her wicked hate Kaikeyí's love to alienate, upon her evil purpose bent began again most eloquent. "Peril awaits thee swift and sure, an utter woe-defying cure. King Dasaratha will create Prince Rama heir associate. Plunged in the depths of wild despair, my soul a prey to pain and care, as though the flames consumed me, zeal has brought me for my lady's weal. Thy grief, my queen, is grief to me. Thy gain my greatest gain would be. Proud daughter of a princely line, the rights of consort queen are thine. How art thou, born of royal race, blind to the crimes that kings debase? Thy lord is gracious to deceive, and flatters, but thy soul to grieve, while thy pure heart that thinks no sin knows not the snares that hem thee in. Thy husband's lips on thee bestow soft soothing word, an empty show. The wealth, the substance, and the power this day will be Kausalia's dower. With crafty soul thy child he sends to dwell among thy distant friends, and every rival far from sight, to Rama gives the power and might. Ah me! For thou, unhappy dame, deluded by a husband's name, with more than mother's love hast pressed a serpent to thy heedless breast, and cherished him who works thee woe, no husband but a deadly foe. For like a snake, unconscious queen, or enemy who stabs unseen, King Dasaratha all untrue has dealt with thee and Burrit too. Ah, simple lady, long beguiled by his soft words who falsely smiled. Poor victim of the guileless breast, a happier fate thou meritest. For thee and thine destruction waits, when he Prince Rama consecrates. Up, lady, while there yet is time, preserve thyself, prevent the crime. Up from thy careless ease, and free thyself, O queen, thy son and me. Delighted at the words she said, Kaikeyí lifted from the bed, like autumn's moon, her radiant head, and joyous at the tidings gave a jewel to the humpback slave, and as she gave the precious toy, she cried in her exceeding joy. Take this, dear maiden, for thy news most grateful to mine ear, and choose what grace beside most fitly may the welcome messenger repay. I joy that Rama gains the throne, Kausalia's son is as mine own. Canto 8. Manthara's speech. The damsel's breast with fury burned she answered, as the gift she spurned. What time, O simple queen, is this for idle dreams of fancied bliss? Hast thou not sensed thy state to know, engulfed in seas of whelming woe? Sick, as I am with grief and pain, my lips can scarce a laugh restrain to see thee hail with ill-timed joy a peril mighty to destroy. I mourn for one so fondly blind. What woman of a prudent mind would welcome, e'en as thou hast done, the lordship of a rival's son, rejoiced to find her secret foe empowered, like death, to launch the blow? I see that Rama still must fear thy Burrit, to his throne too near. Hence is my heart disquieted, for those who fear are those we dread. LKSHM a letter 1E47, the mighty bow who draws with all his soul serves Rama's cause, and chains as strong to Burrit bind Satrugna, with his heart and mind now next to Rama, lady fair. Thy Burrit is the lawful heir, and far remote, I ween, the chance that might the younger two advance. Yes, queen, 'tis Rama that I dread, wise, prompt in warlike science bred. And oh, I tremble when I think of thy dear child on ruin's brink. Blessed with a lofty fate is she, Kausalya, for her son will be placed, when the moon and Pushya meet, by Brahmins on the royal seat. Thou as a slave in suppliant guise must wait upon Kausalya's eyes, with all her wealth and bliss secured, and glorious from her foes assured. Her slave with us who serve thee, thou wilt see thy son to Rama bow, and Sita's friends exult o'er all, while Bharat's wife shares Bharat's fall. As thus the maid in wrath complained, Kaikeyí saw her heart was pained, and answered eager in defense of Rama's worth and excellence. Nay, Rama, born the monarch's heir, by holy fathers trained with care, virtuous, grateful, pure and true, claims royal sway as rightly due. He, like a sire, will long defend each brother, minister and friend. Then why, O humpback, art thou pained to hear that he the throne has gained? Be sure when Rama's empire ends, the kingdom to my son descends, who, when 100 years are flown, shall sit upon his father's throne. Why is thine heart thus sad to see the joy that is, and long shall be, this fortune by possession sure and hopes, which we may count secure? Dear as the darling son I bore is Rama, yea, or even more. Most duteous to Kausalya, he is yet more dutiful to me. What though he rule, we need not fear, his brethren to his soul are dear. And if the throne Prince Rama fill Bharat, will share the empire still. As she ceased, the troubled damsel sighed sighs long and hot, and thus replied, What madness has possessed thy mind, to warnings deaf, to dangers blind? Canst thou not see the floods of woe that threaten o'er thine head to flow? First Rama will the throne acquire, then Rama's son succeed his sire, while Bharat will neglected pine, excluded from the royal line. Not all his sons, O lady fair, the kingdom of a monarch share, all ruling when a sovereign dies wild tumult in the state would rise. The eldest, be he good or ill, is ruler by the father's will. Know, tender mother, that thy son without a friend and all undone, far from the joyous ease of home, an alien from his race will roam. I sped to thee for whom I feel, but thy fond heart mistakes my zeal, thy hand a present would bestow, because thy rival triumphs so. When Rama once begins his sway, without a foe his will to stay, thy darling Bharat he will drive to distant lands if left alive. By thee the child was sent away, beneath his grandsire's roof to stay. Even in stocks and stones perforce, will friendship spring from intercourse. The young Satrugna too would go with Bharat, for he loved him so. As Lakshman, a letter 1E47 still to Rama cleaves, he his dear Bharat never leaves. There is an ancient tale they tell. A tree the foresters would fell was saved by reeds that round it stood, for love that sprang of neighborhood. So Lakshman, a letter 1E47 Rama will defend, and each on each for aid depend. Such fame on earth, their friendship wins as that which binds the heavenly twins. And Rama ne'er will purpose wrong to Lakshman, a letter 1E47, for their love is strong. But Bharat, oh, of this be sure, must evil at his hands endure. Come, Rama from his home, expel in exile in the woods to dwell. The plan, O queen, which I advise secures thy weal if thou be wise. So we and all thy kith and kin, advantage from thy gain shall win. Shall Bharat meet for happier fate, born to endure his rival's hate, with all his fortune ruined cower, and dread his brother's mightier power. Up, queen, to save thy son, arise, prostrate at Rama's feet he lies. So the proud elephant, who leads his trooping consorts through the reeds, falls in the forest shade beneath the lion's spring and murderous teeth. Scorned by thee in thy bliss and pride, Kausalya was of old defied, and will she now forbear to show the vengeful rancor of a foe? O queen, thy darling is undone when Rama's hand has once begun Ayodhya's realm to sway. Come, win the kingdom for thy child, and drive the alien to thee wild in banishment today. Canto 9. The plot. As fury lit Kaikeyí's eyes, she spoke with long and burning sighs. This day my son enthroned shall see, and Rama to the woods shall flee. But tell me, damsel, if thou can a certain way, a skillful plan that Bharat may the empire gain, and Rama's hopes be nursed in vain. The lady ceased. The wicked made the mandate of her queen obeyed, and darkly plotting Rama's fall responded to Kaikeyí's call. I will declare, do thou attend, how Burrit may his throne ascend. Dost thou forget what things befell? Or dost thou feign, remembering well? Or wouldst thou hear my tongue repeat a story for thy need so meet? Gay lady, if thy will be so, now hear the tale of long ago, and when my tongue has done its part, ponder the story in thine heart. When gods and demons fought of old, thy Lord, with royal saints enrolled, sped to the war with thee to bring his might to aid the immortals, king. Far to the southern land he sped where D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K-S mighty wilds are spread, to Vajyanta's city swayed by Sambara, whose flag displayed the hugest monster of the sea. Lord of 100 wiles was B, with might which gods could never blame against the king of heaven he came. Then raged the battle wild and dread, and mortal warriors fought and bled, the fiends by night with strength renewed charged, slew the sleeping multitude. Thy lord, King Dasaratha, long stood fighting with the demon throng, but long of arm, unmatched in strength, fell wounded by their darts at length. Thy husband, senseless, by thine aid was from the battlefield conveyed, and wounded nigh to death thy lord was by thy care to health restored. Well pleased the grateful monarch swear to grant thy first and second prayer. Thou for no favor then wouldst sue, the gifts reserved for season due, and he, thy high-souled lord, agreed to give the boons when thou shouldst need. Myself I knew not what befell, but oft the tale have heard thee tell, and close to thee in friendship knit deep in my heart have treasured it. Remind thy husband of his oath, recall the boons and claim them both, that Burrit on the throne be placed with rites of consecration graced, and Rama to the woods be sent for twice 7 years of banishment. Go, queen, the mourner's chamber, 270, seek, with angry eye and burning cheek, and with disordered robes and hair on the cold earth lie prostrate there. When the king comes still mournful lie, speak not a word nor meet his eye, but let thy tears in torrent flow, and lie enamored of thy woe. Well do I know thou long hast been, and ever art, his darling queen. For thy dear sake, O well-loved dame, the mighty king would brave the flame, but ne'er would anger thee, or brook to meet his favourite's wrathful look. Thy loving lord would even die thy fancy, queen, to gratify, and never could he arm his breast to answer nay to thy request. Listen and learn, O dull of sense, thine all-resistless influence. Gems he will offer, pearls and gold, refuse his gifts, be stern and cold. Those proffered boons at length recall, and claim them till he grants thee all. And O my lady, high in bliss with heedful thought forget not this. When from the ground his queen he lifts and grants again the promised gifts, bind him with oaths he cannot break, and thy demands unflinching make. That Rama travel to the wild 5 years and 9 from home exiled, and Burrit, best of all who reign, the empire of the land obtain. For when this term of years has fled over the banished Rama's head, thy royal son to vigor grown and rooted firm will stand alone. The king, I know, is well inclined, and this the hour to move his mind. Be bold, the threatened right prevent, and force the king from his intent. As she ceased, so counselled to her bane disguised beneath a show of gain, Kaikeyí in her joy and pride to Manthara again replied, Thy sense I envy, prudent maid, with sagest lore thy lids persuade. No humpback maid in all the earth for wise resolve can match thy worth. Thou art alone with constant zeal, devoted to thy lady's weal. Dear girl, without thy faithful aid I had not marked the plot he laid. Full of all guile and sin and spite misshapen humpbacks shock the sight. But thou art fair and formed to please, bent like a lily by the breeze. I look thee o'er with watchful eye, and in thy frame no fault can spy, the chest so deep, the waist so trim, so round the lines of breast and limb. 271, thy cheeks with moonlike beauty shine, and the warm wealth of youth is thine. Thy legs, my girl, are long and neat, and somewhat long thy dainty feet, while stepping out before my face thou seemest like a crane to pace. The 1,000 wiles are in thy breast which Sambara the fiend possessed, and countless others all thine own, O damsel sage, to thee are known. Thy very hump becomes thee too, O thou whose face is fair to view, for there reside in endless store plots, wizard wiles and warrior lore. A golden chain I'll round it fling when Rama's flight makes Burrit king. Yea, polished links of finest gold, when once the wished for prize I hold with naught to fear and none to hate, thy hump, dear maid, shall decorate. A golden frontlet wrought with care, and precious jewels shalt thou wear, 2 lovely robes around thee fold, and walk a goddess to behold, bidding the moon himself compare his beauty with a face so fair. With scent of precious sandal, sweet down to the nails upon thy feet, first of the household, thou shalt go and pay with scorn each battled foe. Kaikeyí's praise the damsel heard, and thus again her lady stirred, who lay upon her beauteous bed like fire upon the altar fed. Dear queen, they build the bridge in vain when swollen streams are dry again. Arise, thy glorious task complete, and draw the king to thy retreat. The large-eyed lady left her bower, exulting in her pride of power, and with the humpback sought the gloom and silence of the mourner's room. The string of priceless pearls that hung around her neck to earth she flung, with all the wealth and luster lent by precious gem and ornament. Then, listening to her slave's advice, lay, like a nymph from paradise. As on the ground her limbs she laid, once more she cried unto the maid, Soon must thou to the monarch say Kaikeyí's soul has passed away, or, Rama banished as we planned, my son made king shall rule the land. No more for gold and gems I care, for brave attire or dainty fare. If Rama should the throne ascend, that very hour my life will end. The royal lady, wounded through the bosom with the darts that flew launched from the humpback's tongue, pressed both her hands upon her side. And o'er again, she cried with wildering fury stung. Yes, it shall be thy task to tell that I have hurried hence to dwell in Yama's realms of woe, or happy Burrit shall be king, and doomed to years of wandering Kausalya's son shall go. I heed not dainty viands, now fair wreaths of flowers to twine my brow, soft balm or precious scent. My very life I count as naught, nothing on earth can claim my thought but Rama's banishment. She spoke these words of cruel ire, then stripping off her gay attire, the cold bare floor she pressed. So, falling from her home on high, some lovely daughter of the sky upon the ground might rest. With darkened brow and furious mien, stripped of her gems and wreath, the queen in spotless beauty lay, like heaven obscured with gathering cloud, when shades of midnight darkness shroud each star's expiring ray. Canto 10. Dasaratha's speech. As Queen Kaikeyí thus obeyed the sinful counsel of her maid, she sank upon the chamber floor, as sinks in anguish, wounded sore, an elephant beneath the smart of the wild hunter's venomed dart. The lovely lady in her mind revolved the plot her maid designed, and prompt the gain and risk to scan she step by step approved the plan. Misguided by the humpback's guile, she pondered her resolve a while, as the fair path that bliss secured the miserable lady lured, devoted to her queen, and swayed by hopes of gain and bliss, the maid rejoiced, her lady's purpose known, and deemed the prize she sought her own. Then bent upon her purpose dire, Kaikeyí with her soul on fire, upon the floor lay, languid, down, her brows contracted in a frown. The bright-hued wreath that bound her hair, chains, necklets, jewels rich and rare, stripped off by her own fingers lay spread on the ground in disarray, and to the floor a luster lent as stars light up the firmament. Thus prostrate in the mourner's cell, in garb of woe the lady fell, her long hair in a single braid, like some fair nymph of heaven dismayed. 272. The monarch, Rama to install, with thoughtful care had ordered all, and now within his home withdrew, dismissing first his retinue. Now all the town has heard, thought he, what joyful rite the morn will see. So turned he to her bower, to cheer, with the glad news his darling's ear. Majestic as the lord of night, when threatened by the dragon's might, bursts radiant on the evening sky pale with the clouds that wander by, so Dasaratha, great in fame, to Queen Kaikeyí's palace came. Their parrots flew from tree to tree, and gorgeous peacocks wandered free, while ever and anon was heard the note of some glad waterbird. Here loitered dwarf and humpbacked maid, their lute and lyre sweet music played. Here, rich in blossom, creepers twined o'er grots with wondrous art designed, their champak and asoka flowers hung glorious o'er the summer bowers, and mid the waving verdure rose gold, silver, ivory porticos. Through all the months in ceaseless store, the trees both fruit and blossom bore. With many a lake the grounds were graced, seats gold and silver here were placed. Here every viand wooed the taste, it was a garden meet to vie an with the home of gods on high. Within the mansion rich and vast the mighty Dasaratha passed, not there was his beloved queen on her fair couch reclining seen. With love his eager pulses beat for the dear wife he came to meet, and in his blissful hopes deceived, he sought his absent love and grieved. For never had she missed the hour of meeting in her sumptuous bower, and never had the king of men entered the empty room till then. Still urged by love and anxious, thought news of his favorite queen he sought, for never had his loving eyes found her, or selfish, or unwise. Then spoke at length the warder maid, with hands upraised and sore afraid. My lord and king, the queen has sought the mourner's cell with rage distraught. The words the warder maiden said he heard with soul disquieted, and thus as fiercer grief assailed, his troubled senses well-nigh failed. Consumed by torturing fires of grief the king, the world's imperial chief, his lady lying on the ground in most unqueenly posture, found. The aged king, all pure within, saw the young queen resolved on sin low on the ground, his own sweet wife to him far dearer than his life, like some fair creeping plant uptorn, or like a maid of heaven forlorn, a nymph of air or goddess sent from Swarga down in banishment. As some wild elephant who tries to soothe his consort as she lies struck by the hunter's venomed dart, so the great king disturbed in heart, strove with soft hand and fond caress to soothe his darling queen's distress, and in his love addressed with sighs the lady of the lotus eyes. I know not, queen, why thou shouldst be thus angered to the heart with me. Say, who has slighted thee, or whence has come the cause of such offense that in the dust thou liest low, and rendest my fond heart with woe, as if some goblin of the night had struck thee with a deadly blight, and cast foul influence on her whose spells my loving bosom stir. I have physicians famed for skill each trained to cure some special ill, my sweetest lady. Tell thy pain, and they shall make thee well again. Whom, darling, wouldst thou punish see? Or whom enriched with lordly fee? Weep not, my lovely queen, and stay this grief that wears thy frame away. Speak, and the guilty shall be freed. The guiltless be condemned to bleed, the poor enriched, the rich abased, the low set high, the proud disgraced. My lords and I thy will obey, all slaves who own thy sovereign sway, and I can ne'er my heart incline to check in aught one wish of thine. Now by my life, I pray thee tell the thoughts that in thy bosom dwell. The power and might thou knowest well, should from thy breast all doubt expel. I swear by all my merit one speak, and thy pleasure shall be done. Far as the world's wide bounds, extend my glorious empire knows no end. Mine are the tribes in eastern lands, and those who dwell on Sindhu sands. Mine is Surash letter 1E6DR, a far away, Suvira's realm admits my sway. My best the southern nations fear, the Angas and the Vangas here. And as Lord Paramount I reign o'er Magad and the Matsyas, Plain, Kozal, and Cassie's wide domain. 273, all rich in treasures of the mine, in golden corn, sheep, goats, and kine. Choose what thou wilt. Kaikeyí thence, but tell me, O my darling, whence arose thy grief, and it shall fly like hoarfrost when the sun is high. She, by his loving words consoled, longed her dire purpose to unfold, and sought with sharper pangs to wring the bosom of her lord the king. Canto 11. The Queen's Demand. To him enthralled by love, and blind, pierced by his darts who shakes the mind, 274, Kaikeyí with remorseless breast her grand purpose thus expressed. O king, no insult or neglect have I endured or disrespect. One wish I have, and faith would see that longing granted, Lord, by thee. Now pledge thy word if thou incline to listen to this prayer of mine, then I with confidence will speak, and thou shalt hear the boon I seek. Ere she had ceased, the monarch fell, a victim to the lady's spell, and to the deadly snare she set sprang, like a roebuck to the net. Her lover raised her drooping head, smiled, playing with her hair, and said, Hast thou not learnt, wild dame, till now that there is none so dear as thou to me thy loving husband, save my Rama bravest of the brave? By him my race's high-souled heir, by him whom none can match, I swear, now speak the wish that on thee weighs, by him whose right is length of days, whom if my fond paternal eye saw not 1 hour I needs must die. I swear by Rama my dear son speak, and thy bidding shall be done. Speak, darling, if thou choose, request to have the heart from out my breast regard my words, sweet love, and name the wish thy mind thinks fit to frame. Nor let thy soul give way to doubt, my power should drive suspicion out. Yea, by my merits when I swear, speak, darling, I will grant thy prayer. The queen, ambitious, overjoyed to see him by her plot decoyed, more eager still her aims to reach, spoke her abominable speech. A boon thou grantest, nothing loth, and swearest with repeated oath. Now let the 30 gods and 3 my witnesses, with Indra, be. Let sun and moon and planets hear, heaven, quarters, day and night, give ear. The mighty world, the earth outspread, with bards of heaven and demons dread, the ghosts that walk in midnight shade, and household gods our present aid, every being great and small to hear, and mark the oath I call. When thus the archer king was bound, with treacherous arts and oaths enwound, she to her bounteous lord subdued by blinding love, her speech renewed. Remember, king, that long past day of gods and demons, battle fray. And how thy foe in doubtful strife had nigh bereft thee of thy life. Remember, it was only I preserved thee when about to die, and thou for watchful love and care wouldst grant my first and second prayer. Those offered boons, pledged with thee then, I now demand, O king of men, of thee, O monarch good and just, whose righteous soul observes each trust. If thou refuse thy promise sworn, I die, despised before the morn. These rites in Rama's name begun, transfer them, and enthrone my son. The time is come to claim at last the double boon of days long past, when gods and demons met in fight, and thou wouldst fain my care requite. Now forth to D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS forest drive thy Rama for 9 years and 5, and let him dwell a hermit there with deerskin coat and matted hair. Without a rival, let my boy the empire of the land enjoy, and let mine eyes ere morning see thy Rama to the forest flee. Canto 12. Dasaratha's Lament. The monarch, as Kaikeyí pressed with cruel words her dire request, stood for a time absorbed in thought while anguish in his bosom wrought. Does some wild dream my heart assail? Or do my troubled senses fail? Does some dire portent scare my view? Or frenzies stroke my soul subdue? Thus as he thought, his troubled mind in doubt and dread no rest could find, distressed and trembling like a deer who sees the dreaded tigress near. On the bare ground his limbs he threw, and many a long deep sigh he drew, like a wild snake, with fury blind, by charms within a ring confined. Once as the monarch's fury woke, shame on thee, from his bosom broke, and then in sense-bewildering pain he fainted on the ground again. At length, when slowly strength returned, he answered as his eyeballs burned with the wild fury of his ire consuming her, as tweer with fire. Fell treacherous, thou whose thoughts design the utter ruin of my line, what wrong have I or Rama done? Speak, murderous, speak, thou wicked one, seeks he not evermore to please thee with all son-like courtesies? By what persuasion art thou led to bring this ruin on his head? Ah me, that fondly unaware I brought thee home my life to share, called daughter of a king, in truth a serpent with a venomed tooth. What fault can I pretend to find in Rama praised by all mankind, that I my darling should forsake? No, take my life, my glory take, let either queen be from me torn, but not my well-loved eldest born. Him but to see is highest bliss, and death itself his face to miss. The world may sunless stand, the grain may thrive without the genial rain, but if my Rama be not nigh my spirit from its frame will fly. Enough thine impious plan forgo, O thou who plottest sin and woe. My head before thy feet I kneel, and pray thee some compassion feel. O wicked dame, what can have led thy heart to dare a plot so dread? Perchance thy purpose is to sound the grace thy son with me has found. Perchance the words that, all these days, thou still hast said in Rama's praise, were only feigned, designed to cheer with flatteries a father's ear. Soon as thy grief, my queen, I knew, my bosom felt the anguish too. In empty halls art thou possessed, and subject to another's hest. Now on Ikshvaku's ancient race falls foul disorder and disgrace, if thou, O queen, whose heart so long has loved the good, should choose the wrong. Not once, O large-eyed dame, hast thou been guilty of offense till now, nor said a word to make me grieve. Now will I now thy sin believe. With thee my Rama used to hold like place, with burret lofty souled. As thou so often, when the pair were children yet, wouldst fain declare. And can thy righteous soul endure that Rama glorious, pious, pure, should to the distant wilds be sent for 14 years of banishment? Yea, Rama Bur itself exceeds in love to thee and son-like deeds, and for deserving love of thee as Burit, even so is he. Who better than that chieftain may obedience, love, and honor pay, thy dignity with care protect, thy slightest word and wish respect. Of all his countless followers none can breathe a word against my son. Of many thousands not a dame can hint reproach or whisper blame. All creatures feel the sweet control of Rama's pure and gentle soul. The pride of Manu's race, he binds to him the people's grateful minds. He wins the subjects with his truth, the poor with gifts and gentle ruth, his teachers with his docile will, the foemen with his archer skill. Truth, purity, religious zeal, the hand to give, the heart to feel, the love that ne'er betrays a friend, the rectitude that naught can bend, knowledge, and meek obedience grace my Rama pride of Raghu's race. Canst thou thine impious plot design, gainst him in whom these virtues shine, whose glory with the sages vies, peer of the gods who rule the skies? From him no harsh or bitter word to pain one creature have I heard, and how can I my son address for thee with words of bitterness? Have mercy, queen, some pity show to see my tears of anguish flow, and listen to my mournful cry, a poor old man who soon must die. Whate'er this sea-girt land can boast of rich and rare from coast to coast, to thee, my queen, I give it all. But oh, thy deadly words recall, oh see, my suppliant hands entreat, again my lips are on thy feet. Save Rama, save my darling child, nor kill me with this sin defiled. He grovelled on the ground, and lay to burning grief a senseless prey, and ever and anon, assailed by floods of woe, he wept and wailed, striving with eager speed to gain the margin of his sea of pain. With fiercer words she fiercer, yet the hapless father's pleading met. O monarch, if thy soul repent the promise and thy free consent, how wilt thou in the world maintain thy fame for truth unsmirched with stain? When gathered kings with thee converse, and bid thee all the tale rehearse, what wilt thou say, O truthful king, in answer to their questioning? She to whose love my life I owe, who saved me smitten by the foe, Kaikeyí, for her tender care, was cheated of the oath I swear. Thus wilt thou answer, and forsworn wilt draw on thee the prince's scorn. Learn from that tale, the hawk and dove, 275, how strong for truth was Savia's love. Pledged by his word, the monarch gave his flesh the suppliant bird to save. So King Alarka gave his eyes, and gained a mansion in the skies. The sea himself his promise keeps, and ne'er beyond his limit sweeps. My deeds of old again recall, nor let thy bond dishonored fall. The rights of truth thou wouldst forget, thy Rama on the throne to set, and let thy days in pleasure glide, fond king, Kausalya by thy side. Now call it by what name thou wilt, justice, injustice, virtue, guilt. Thy word and oath remain the same, and thou must yield what thus I claim. If Rama be anointed, I this very day will surely die, before thy face will poison drink, and lifeless at thy feet will sink. Yea, better far to die than stay alive, to see one single day the crowds before Kausalya stand, and hail her queen with reverent hand. Now by my son myself, I swear, no gift, no promise whatsoever my steadfast soul shall now content, but only Rama's banishment. So far she spake by rage impelled, and then the queen deep silence held. He heard her speech full fraught with ill, but spoke no word, bewildered still. Gazed on his love once held so dear, who spoke unlovely reed to hear. Then, as he slowly pondered o'er the queen's resolve, and oath she swore. Once sighing forth, ah Rama! He fell prone, as falls a smitten tree. His senses lost like one insane, faint as a sick man weak with pain, or like a wounded snake dismayed, so lay the king whom earth obeyed. Long burning sighs he slowly heaved, as, conquered by his woe, he grieved, and thus with tears and sobs between his sad faint words addressed the queen. By whom, Kaikeyí, wast thou taught this flattering hope with ruin fraught? Have goblins seized thy soul, O dame, who thus canst speak and feel no shame? Thy mind with sin is sicklied o'er, from thy first youth ne'er seen before. A good and loving wife wast thou, but all, alas, is altered now. What terror can have seized thy breast to make thee frame this dire request, that Burit o'er the land may reign, and Rama in the woods remain? Turn from thine evil ways, O turn, and thy perfidious counsel spurn, if thou would fain a favor do to people, lord and Burit too. O wicked traitress, fierce and vile, who lovest deeds of sin and guile, What crime or grievance dost thou see? What fault in Rama or in me? Thy son will ne'er the throne, except if Rama from his rights be kept. For Bharat's heart more firmly, yet than Rama's is on justice set. How shall I say? Go forth, and brook upon my Rama's face to look. See his pale cheek and ashy lips dimmed like the moon in sad eclipse. How see the plans so well prepared when prudent friends my counsels shared, all ruined, like a host laid low beneath some foeman's murderous blow. What will these gathered princes say, from regions near and far away? Or long endures the monarch's reign, or now he is a child again. When many a good and holy sage in scripture versed, revered for age, shall ask for Rama, what shall I unhappy, what shall I reply? By Queen Kaikeyí long distressed I drove him forth and dispossessed. Although herein the truth I speak, they all will hold me false and weak. What will Ayodhyá say, when she demands her son exiled by me? Alas! What answer shall I frame, or how console the injured dame? She like a slave on me attends, and with a sister's care she blends a mother's love, a wife's, a friend's. In spite of all her tender care, her noble son, her face most fair. Another queen I could prefer, and for thy sake neglected her. But now, O queen, my heart is grieved for love and care by thee received, and as the sickening wretch repents his dainty meal and condiments. And how will Queen Sumitra trust the husband whom she finds unjust, seeing my Rama driven hence dishonored, and for no offense? The Vidhan bride will hear a double woe, a double fear, two whelming sorrows at one breath, her lord's disgrace, his father's death. Mine aged bosom she will wring and kill me with her sorrowing, sad as a fair nymph left to weep deserted on Himalaya's steep. For short will be my days, I ween, when I with mournful eyes have seen my Rama wandering forth alone, and heard dear Sítá sob and moan. Ah me! My fond belief I rue. Vile treacherous, loved as good and true, as one who in his thirst has quaffed, deceived by looks, a deadly draught. Thou hast slain me, murderess, while soothing my soul with words of guile, as the wild hunter kills the deer lured from the brake his song to hear. Soon every honest tongue will fling reproach on the dishonest king, the people's scorn in every street the seller of his child will meet, and such dishonor will be mine as whelms a Brahmin drunk with wine. Ah me, for my unhappy fate, compelled thy words to tolerate. Such woe is sent to scourge a crime, committed in some distant time. For many a day with sinful care I cherished thee, thou sin and snare, kept thee, unwitting, like a cord destined to bind its hapless lord. Mine hours of ease I spent with thee, nor deemed my love my death would be, while like a heedless child I played, on a black snake my hand I laid. A cry from every mouth will burst, and all the world will hold me cursed, because I saw my high-souled son unkinged, unfathered, and undone. The king by power of love beguiled is weaker than a foolish child, his own beloved son to make an exile for a woman's sake. By chaste and holy vows restrained, by reverend teachers duly trained. When he his virtue's fruit should taste he falls by sin and woe disgraced. 2 words will all his answer be when I pronounce the stern decree, hence Rama, to the woods away, all he will say is I obey. Oh, if he would my will withstand when banished from his home and land, this were a comfort in my woe, but he will ne'er do this, I know. My Rama to the forest fled, and curses thick upon my head, grim death will bear me hence away, his world-abominated prey. When I am gone and Rama too, how wilt thou those I love pursue? What vengeful sin will be designed against the queens I leave behind? When thou hast slain her son, and me Ayodhyá soon will follow, she will sink beneath her sorrows, wait, and die like me disconsolate. Exist, Kaikeyí, in thy pride, and let thy heart be gratified, when thou my queens and me hast hurled, and children to the underworld. Soon wilt thou rule as empress, or my noble house unvexed before. But then to wild confusion left, of Rama and of me bereft. If Bharat to thy plan consent, and long for Rama's banishment, ne'er let his hands presume to pay the funeral honors to my clay. Vile foe, thou cause of all mine ill, obtain at last thy cursed will. A widow soon shalt thou enjoy the sweets of empire with thy boy. O princess, sure some evil fate first brought thee here to devastate, in whom the night of ruin lies veiled in a consort's fair disguise. The scorn of all and deepest shame will long pursue my hated name, and dire disgrace on me will press misled by thee to wickedness. How shall my Rama, whom, before, his elephant or chariot bore, now with his feet, a wanderer, tread the forest wilds around him spread? How shall my son, to please whose taste, the deftest cooks, with earrings graced, with rivalry and jealous care the dainty meal and cates prepare? How shall he now his life sustain with acid fruit and woodland grain? He spends his time unvexed by cares, and robes of precious texture wears. How shall he, with one garment round his limbs recline upon the ground? Whose was this plan, this cruel thought unheard till now, with ruin fraught, to make thy son Ayodhyá's king, and send my Rama wandering? Shame, shame on women. Vile, untrue, their selfish ends they still pursue. Not all of womankind I mean, but more than all this wicked queen. O worthless, cruel, selfish dame, I brought thee home, my plague and woe. What fault in me hast thou to blame, or in my son who loves thee so? Fond wives may from their husbands flee, and fathers may their sons desert, but all the world would rave to see my Rama touched with deadly hurt. I joy his very step to hear, as though his godlike form I viewed, and when I see my Rama near I feel my youth again renewed. There might be life without the sun, yea, e'en if Indra sent no rain, but were my Rama banished, none would, so I think, alive remain. A foe that longs my life to take, I brought thee here my death to be, caress thee long, a venomed snake, and through my folly die. Ah me! Rama and me an L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47 slay, and then with Burrit rule the state, so bring the kingdom to decay, and fawn on those thy lord who hate, plotter of woe, for evil bred. For such a speech, why do not all thy teeth from out thy wicked head split in 1,000 pieces fall? My Rama's words are ever kind, he knows not how to speak in ire. Then, how canst thou presume to find a fault in him whom all admire? Yield to despair, go mad, or die, or sink within the rifted earth. Thy fell request will I deny, thou shamer of thy royal birth. Thy longer life I scarce can bear, thou ruin of my home and race. Who wouldst my heart and heartstrings tear, keen as a razor, false and base? My life is gone, why speak of joy? For what without my son were sweet? Spare, lady, him thou canst destroy, I pray thee as I touch thy feet. He fell and wept with wild complaint, heart-struck by her presumptuous speech, but could not touch, so weak and faint, the cruel feet he strove to reach. Canto 13. Dasaratha's distress. Unworthy of his mournful fate, the mighty king, unfortunate, lay prostrate in unseemly guise as, banished from the blissful skies, Yayati in his evil day. His merit all exhausted lay. 276. The queen, triumphant in the power won by her beauty's fatal dower, still terrible and unsubdued, her dire demand again renewed. Great monarch, 'twas thy boast till now to love the truth and keep the vow, then wherefore would thy lips refuse the promised boon, tease mine to choose? King Dasaratha, thus addressed, with anger raging in his breast, sank for a while beneath the pain, then to Kaikeyí spoke again. Childless so long, at length I won, with mighty toil, from heaven a son, Rama the mighty-armed, and how shall I desert my darling now? A scholar wise, a hero bold of patient mood, with wrath controlled, how can I bid my Rama fly, my darling of the lotus eye? In heaven itself I scarce could bear, when asking of my Rama there, to hear the gods his griefs declare. And oh, that death would take me hence before I wrong his innocence. As thus the monarch wept and wailed, and maddening grief his heart assailed, the sun had sought his resting place, and night was closing round apace. But yet the moon-crowned night could bring no comfort to the wretched king. As still he mourned with burning sighs and fixed his gaze upon the skies. O night whom starry fires adorn, I long not for the coming morn. Be kind and show some mercy. See, my suppliant hands are raised to thee. Nay, rather fly with swifter pace. No longer would I see the face of Queen Kaikeyí, cruel, dread, who brings this woe upon mine head. Again with suppliant hands he tried to move the queen, and wept and sighed. To me, unhappy me, inclined to good, sweet dame, thou shouldst be kind, whose life is well nigh fled, who cling to thee for succor, me thy king. This only this is all my claim, have mercy, O my lovely dame. None else have I to take my part, have mercy, thou art good at heart. Hear, lady of the soft black eye, and win a name that ne'er shall die. Let Rama rule this glorious land, the gift of thine imperial hand. O lady of the dainty waist, with eyes and lips of beauty graced, please Rama, me, each saintly priest, Bharat and all from chief to least. She heard his wild and mournful cry, she saw the tears his speech that broke, saw her good husband's reddened eye, but cruel still, no word she spoke. His eyes upon her face he bent, and sought for mercy, but in vain she claimed his darling's banishment. He swooned upon the ground again. Canto 14. Rama summoned. The wicked queen her speech renewed. When rolling on the earth she viewed Ikshvaku's son, Ayodhya's king for his dear Rama sorrowing. Why, by a simple promise bound, least thou prostrate on the ground, as though a grievous sin dismayed thy spirit? Why so sore afraid? Keep still thy word. The righteous deem that truth, mid duties, is supreme, and now in truth and honor, name I bid thee own the binding claim. Savia, a king whom earth obeyed, once to a hawk a promise made, gave to the bird his flesh and bone, and by his truth made heaven his own. 277. Alarka, when a Brahmin famed for scripture lore his promise claimed, tore from his head his bleeding eyes and unreluctant gave the prize. His narrow bounds prescribed restrain the rivers, Lord, the mighty main, who, though his waters boil and rave, keeps faithful to the word he gave. Truth all religion comprehends, through all the world its might extends. In truth alone is justice placed, on truth the words of God are based. A life in truth unchanging past will bring the highest bliss at last. If thou the right would still pursue, be constant to thy word and true, let me thy promise fruitful see, for boons, O king, proceed from thee. Now to preserve thy righteous fame, and yielding to my earnest claim, thrice I repeat it, send thy child, thy Rama, to the forest wild. But if the boon thou still deny, before thy face forlorn I die. Thus was the helpless monarch stung by Queen Kaikeyí's fearless tongue, as Bali strove in vain to loose his limbs from Indra's fatal noose. Dismayed in soul and pale with fear, the monarch, like a trembling steer between the chariot's wheel and yoke, again to Queen Kaikeyí spoke, with sad eyes fixed in vacant stare, gathering courage from despair. That hand I took, thou sinful dame, with texts before the sacred flame, thee and thy son I scorn and hate, and all at once repudiate. The night is fled, the dawn is near, soon will the holy priests be here to bid me for the right prepare that with my son the throne will share, the preparation made to grace my Rama in his royal place. With this, e'en this, my darling for my death the funeral flood shall pour. Thou and thy son at least forbear in offerings to my shade to share, for by the plot thy guile has laid his consecration will be stayed. This very day, how shall I brook to meet each subject's altered look? To mark each gloomy joyless brow, that was so bright and glad but now. While thus the high-souled monarch spoke to the stern queen, the morning broke, and holy night had slowly fled, with moon and stars engarlanded. Yet once again the cruel queen spoke words in answer fierce and keen, still on her evil purpose bent, wild with her rage and eloquent. What speech is this? Such words as these seem sprung from poison-sown disease. Quick to thy noble Rama send, and bid him on his sire attend. When to my son the rule is given, when Rama to the woods is driven, when not a rival copes with me, from chains of duty thou art free. Thus goaded like a generous steed urged by sharp spurs to double speed, my senses are astray, he cried, and duty's bonds my hands have tied. I long to see mine eldest son, my virtuous, my beloved one. And now the night had passed away, outshone the maker of the day, bringing the planetary hour and moment of auspicious power. V. A. Execute ISH letter 1E60 H, a virtuous, far renowned, whose young disciples girt him round, with sacred things without delay through the fair city took his way. He traversed, where the people thronged, and all for Rama's coming longed, the town as fair in festive show as his who lays proud cities low. 278, he reached the palace where he heard the mingled notes of many a bird, where crowded thick high-honored bands of guards with truncheons in their hands. Begirt by many a sage, elate via execute ISH letter 1E60 H a reached the royal gate, and standing by the door he found Sumantra, for his form renowned, the king's illustrious charioteer and noble counselor and peer. To him well skilled in every part of his hereditary art a execute, ish letter 160h a said. O charioteer, inform the king that I am here ready by my side. Behold these sacred vessels made of gold, which water for the right contain from Ganga and each distant main. Here for installing I have brought the seat prescribed of figwood wrought, all kinds of seed and precious scent, and many a gem and ornament. Grain, sacred grass, the garden's spoil, honey and curds and milk and oil, 8 radiant maids, the best of all war elephants that feed in stall, a 4-horse car, a bow and sword. A litter, men to bear their lord, a white umbrella bright and fair that with the moon may well compare, 2 chowries of the whitest hair, a golden beaker rich and rare, a bull high-humped and fair to view, girt with gold bands and white of hue, a 4-toothed steed with flowing mane, a throne which lions carved sustain, a tiger's skin, the sacred fire fresh kindled, which the rites require, the best musicians skilled to play, and dancing girls in raiment gay. Kine Brahmins, teachers fill the court, and bird and beast of purest sort. From town and village, far and near, the noblest men are gathered here merchants with their followers crowd, and men in joyful converse loud, and kings from many a distant land to view the consecration stand. The dawn is come, the lucky day, go bid the monarch haste away, that now Prince Rama may obtain the empire and begin his reign. Soon as he heard the high behest, the driver of the chariot pressed within the chambers of the king, his lord with praises honoring. And none of all the warders checked his entrance for their great respect of him well known, in place so high, still fain their king to gratify. He stood beside the royal chief, unwitting of his deadly grief, and with sweet words began to sing the praises of his lord and king. As, when the sun begins to rise, the sparkling sea delights our eyes, wake, calm with gentle soul, and thus give rapture, mighty king, to us. As Matali, 279, this self-same hour sang lauds of old to Indra's power, when he the Titan hosts o'erthrew, so him I thee with praises do. The Vedas, with their kindred lore, Brahma their soul-born lord adore, with all the doctrines of the wise, and bid him, as I bid thee, rise. As, with the moon, the lord of day wakes with the splendor of his ray-prolific earth, who neath him lies, so, mighty king, I bid thee rise. With blissful words, O Lord of men, rise, radiant in thy form, as when the sun ascending darts his light from Meru's everlasting height. May Siva, Agni, sun, and moon bestow on thee each choicest boon. Kuvara, Varu letter 1E47, Indra bless Kakutstha's son with all success. Awake, the holy night is fled, the happy light abroad is spread. Awake, O best of kings, and share the glorious task that claims thy care. The holy sage execute, ish letter 1E60h awaits, with all his Brahmins at the gate. Give thy decree, without delay, to consecrate thy son today. As armies by no captain led, as flocks that feed unshepherded, such is the fortune of a state without a king and desolate. Such were the words the bard addressed, with weight of sage advice impressed, and, as he heard, the hapless king felt deeper yet his sorrows sting. At length all joy and comfort fled, he raised his eyes with weeping red, and mournful for his Rama's sake, the good and glorious monarch spake. Why seek with idle praise to greet the wretch for whom no praise is meet? Thy words mine aching bosom tear, and plunge me deeper in despair. Sumantra heard the sad reply, and saw his master's tearful eye. With reverent palm to palm, applied, he drew a little space aside. Then, as the king, with misery weak, with vain endeavor strove to speak, Kaikeyí, skilled in plot and plan, to sage Sumantra thus began. The king, absorbed in joyful thought for his dear son, no rest has sought. Sleepless to him the night has passed, and now o'erwatched he sinks at last. Then go, Sumantra, and with speed the glorious Rama hither lead. Go, as I pray, nor longer wait, no time is this to hesitate. How can I go, O lady fair, unless my lord his will declare? Fain would I see him, cried the king, quick, quick, my beauteous Rama bring. Then rose the happy thought to cheer the bosom of the charioteer. The king, I ween, of pious mind, the consecration has designed. Sumantra, for his wisdom famed, delighted with the thought he framed, from the calm chamber, like a bay of crowded ocean, took his way. He turned his face to neither side, but forth he hurried straight. Only a little while he eyed the guards who kept the gate. He saw in front a gathered crowd of men of every class, who, parting as he came, allowed the charioteer to pass. Canto 15. The preparations. There slept the Brahmins, deeply read in scripture, till the night had fled. Then, with the royal chaplains, they took each his place in long array. There gathered fast the chiefs of trade, nor peer nor captain long delayed, assembling all in order do the consecrating rite to view. The morning dawned with cloudless ray on Pushia's high auspicious day, and Cancer with benignant power looked down on Rama's natal hour. The twice-born chiefs, with zealous heed, made ready what the rite would need. The well-wrought throne of holy wood and golden urns in order stood. There was the royal car whereon a tiger's skin resplendent shone. There water, brought for sprinkling thence where, in their sacred confluence, blend Jumna's waves with Ganga's tide, from many a holy flood beside, from brook and fountain far and near, from pool and river, sea and mere. And there were honey, curd, and oil, parched rice and grass, the garden's spoil, fresh milk, 8 girls in bright attire, an elephant with eyes of fire, and urns of gold and silver made, with milky branches overlaid, all brimming from each sacred flood, and decked with many a lotus bud. And dancing women fair and free, gay with their gems, were there to see, who stood in bright apparel by with lovely brow and witching eye. White flashed the jeweled chowry there, and shone like moonbeams through the air. The white umbrella overhead a pale and moonlike luster shed, wont in pure splendor to proceed, and in such rites the pomp to lead. There stood the charger by the side of the great bull of snow-white hide. There was all music soft and loud, and bards and minstrels swelled the crowd. For now the monarch bade combine each custom of his ancient line with every rite Ayodhya's state observed, her kings to consecrate. Then, summoned by the king's behest, the multitudes together pressed, and, missing still the royal sire, began, impatient, to inquire, who to our Lord will tidings bear that all his people throng the square? Where is the king? The sun is bright, and all is ready for the rite. As thus they spoke, Sumantra, tried in council, to the chiefs replied, gathered from lands on every side. To Rama's house I swiftly drave, for so the king his mandate gave. Our aged lord and Rama too in honor high hold all of you. I in your words be long your days. We'll ask him why he thus delays. Thus spoke the peer in scripture read, and to the lady's bower he sped. Quick through the gate Sumantra hied, which access ne'er to him denied. Behind the curtain screen he drew, which veiled the chamber from the view. In benediction loud he raised his voice, and thus the monarch praised. Sun, moon, Kuvara, Siva bless Kakut's son with high success. The lords of air, flood, fire decree the victory, my king, to thee. The holy night has passed away, auspicious shines the morning's ray. Rise, Lord of men, thy part to take in the great rite. Awake! Awake! Brahmins and captains, chiefs of trade, all wait in festive garb arrayed. For thee they look with eager eyes, O Raghu's son, awake. Arise! To him in holy scripture read, who hailed him thus, the monarch said, upraising from his sleep his head. Go, Rama, hither lead as thou wast ordered by the queen but now. Come, tell me why my mandate laid upon thee thus is disobeyed. Away! And Rama hither bring, I sleep not, make no tarrying. Thus gave the king command anew, Sumantra from his lord withdrew, with head in lowly reverence bent, and filled with thoughts of joy, he went. The royal street he traversed, where waved flag and pennon to the air, and, as with joy the car he drove, he let his eyes delighted rove. On every side where'er he came, he heard glad words, their theme the same, as in their joy the gathered folk of Rama and the throning spoke. Then saw he Rama's palace bright and vast as Mount Kailasa's height, that glorious in its beauty showed as Indra's own supreme abode, with folding doors both high and wide, with 100 porches beautified, where golden statues towering rose or gemmed and coralled porticos. Bright like a cave in Meru's side, or clouds through autumn's sky that ride, festooned with length of bloomy twine, flashing with pearls and jewels. Shine, while sandalwood and aloe lent the mingled riches of their scent, with all the odorous sweets that fill the breezy heights of Dardar's hill. There by the gate the saras screamed, and shrill-toned peacocks' plumage gleamed. Its floors with deftest art inlaid, its sculptured wolves in gold arrayed, With its bright sheen, the palace took the mind of man and chained the look, for like the sun and moon it glowed, and mocked Kuvera's loved abode. Circling the walls, a crowd he viewed who stood in reverent attitude, with throngs of countrymen who sought acceptance of the gifts they brought. The elephant was stationed there, appointed Rama's self to bear, adorned with pearls, his brow and cheek were sandal-dyed in many a streak, while he, in stature, bulk, and pride, with Indra's own Aravat, 280 vied. Sumentra, borne by coursers fleet, flashing a radiance o'er the street, to Rama's palace flew, and all who lined the royal road, or thronged the prince's rich abode, rejoiced as near he drew. And with delight his bosom swelled as onward still his course, he held through many a sumptuous court like Indra's palace nobly made, where peacocks revelled in the shade, and beasts of sylvan sort. Through many a hall and chamber wide, that with Kailas's splendor vied. Or mansions of the blessed, while Rama's friends, beloved and tried, before his coming stepped aside, still on Sumentra pressed. He reached the chamber door, where stood around his followers young and good, bard, minstrel, charioteer, well skilled the tuneful chords to sweep, with soothing strain to lull to sleep, or laud their master dear. Then, like a dolphin darting through unfathomed depths of oceans, blue with store of jewels decked, through crowded halls that rock like rose, or as proud hills where clouds repose, Sumentra sped unchecked. Halls like the glittering domes on high reared for the dwellers of the sky by heavenly architect. Canto 16. Rama summoned. So through the crowded inner door Sumentra, skilled in ancient lore, on to the private chambers pressed which stood apart from all the rest. Their youthful warriors, true and bold, whose ears were ringed with polished gold, all armed with trusty bows and darts, watched with devoted eyes and hearts. And hoary men, a faithful train, whose aged hands held staves of cane, the ladies, guard, apparelled fair in red attire, were stationed there. Soon as they saw Sumentra nigh, each longed his lord to gratify, and from his seat beside the door up sprang each ancient servitor. Then to the warders quickly cried the skilled Sumentra, void of pride, "Tell Rama that the charioteer Sumentra waits for audience here." The ancient men with one accord seeking the pleasure of their lord, passing with speed the chamber door to Rama's ear the message bore. Forthwith the prince with duteous heed called in the messenger with speed, for 'twas his sire's command, he knew, that sent him for the interview. Like Lord Kuvera, well arrayed, he pressed a couch of gold, wherefrom a covering of brocade hung down in many a fold. Oil and the sandal's fragrant dust had tinged his body o'er dark, as the stream the spearman's thrust drains from the wounded boar. Him Sítá watched with tender care, a chowry in her hand, as Chitra, 281 ever fond and fair, beside the moon will stand. Him glorious with unborrowed light, a liberal lord, of sun-like might, Sumentra hailed in words like these, well skilled in gentle courtesies as, with joined hands in reverence raised, upon the beauteous prince he gazed. Happy Kausalya. Blessed is she, the mother of a son like thee. Now rise, O Rama, speed away. Go to thy sire without delay, for he and Queen Kaikeyí seek an interview with thee to speak. The lion lord of men, the best of splendid heroes, thus addressed, to Sítá spake with joyful cheer. The king and queen, my lady dear touching the throning, for my sake some salutary counsel take. The lady of the full black eye would fain her husband gratify, and, all his purpose understood, counsels the monarch to my good. A happy fate is mine, I ween, when he, consulting with his queen Sumentra on this charge, intent upon my gain and good has sent. An envoy of so noble sort well suits the splendor of the court. The consecration rite this day will join me in imperial sway. To meet the Lord of earth, for so his order bids me, I will go. Thou, lady, here in comfort stay, and with thy maidens rest or play. Thus Rama spake. For meet reply the lady of the large black eye attended to the door her lord, and blessings on his head implored. The majesty and royal state which holy Brahmins venerate, the consecration and the rite which sanctifies the ruler's might, and all imperial powers should be thine by thy father's high decree, as he, the worlds who formed and planned, the kingship gave to Indra's hand. Then shall mine eyes my king adore when lustral rites and fast are o'er, and black deer's skin and roebuck's horn thy lordly limbs and hand adorn. May he whose hands the thunder wield be in the east thy guard and shield. May Yama's care the south befriend, and VARU letter 1E47's arm the west defend, and let Kuvera, lord of gold, the north with firm protection hold. Then Rama spoke a kind farewell, and hailed the blessings as they fell from Sita's gentle lips. And then, as a young lion from his den descends the mountain's stony side, so from the hall the hero hied. First LAKSHM, a letter 1E47 at the door he viewed who stood in reverent attitude. Then to the central court he pressed, where watched the friends who loved him best. To all his dear companions there, he gave kind looks and greeting fair. Onto the lofty car that glowed like fire the royal tiger strode. Bright as himself its silver shone, a tiger's skin was laid thereon. With cloud-like thunder, as it rolled, it flashed with gems and burnished gold, and like the sun's meridian blaze, blinded the eye that none could gaze. Like youthful elephants, tall and strong fleet coursers whirled the car along. In such a car, the thousand died born by swift horses loves to ride. So like Parjanya, 282, when he flies thundering through the autumn skies, the hero from the palace sped, as leaves the moon some cloud o'erhead. Still close to Rama LAKSHM, a letter 1E47 kept, behind him to the car he leapt, and, watching with fraternal care, waved the long chowrie's silver hair. As from the palace gate he came up rose the tumult of acclaim, while loud huzzah and jubilant shout pealed from the gathered myriads out. Then elephants, like mountains vast, and steeds who all their kind surpassed, followed their lord by hundreds, nay by thousands, led in long array. First marched a band of warriors trained, with sandal dust and aloe stained. Well armed was each with sword and bow, and every breast with hope aglow. And ever, as they onward went, shouts from the warrior train, and every sweet-toned instrument prolonged the minstrel strain. On past the tamer of his foes, while well-clad dames, in crowded rows, each chamber lattice thronged to view, and chaplets on the hero threw. Then all, of peerless face and limb, sang Rama's praise for love of him, and blent their voices, soft and sweet from palace high and crowded street. Now, sure, Kausalya's heart must swell to see the son she loves so well, thee Rama, thee, her joy and pride, triumphant o'er the realm preside. Then, for they knew his bride most fair of all who part the soft dark hair, his love, his life, possessed the whole of her young hero's heart and soul. Be sure the lady's fate repays some mighty vow of ancient days. 283, for blessed with Rama's love is she as, with the moon's, sweet Rohini. 284. Such were the witching words that came from lips of many a peerless dame, crowding the palace roofs to greet the hero as he gained the street. Canto 17. Rama's approach. As Rama, rendering blithe and gay his loving friends, pursued his way, he saw on either hand a press of mingled people numberless. The royal street he traversed, where incense of aloe filled the air, where rose high palaces, that vied with paly clouds on either side, with flowers of myriad colors graced. And food for every varied taste, bright as the glowing path o'erhead which feet of God's celestial tread, loud benedictions, sweet to hear, from countless voices soothed his ear. While he to each gave due salute his place and dignity to suit. Be thou, the joyful people cried, be thou our guardian, lord and guide. Throned and anointed king today, thy feet set forth upon the way wherein, each honored as a god, thy fathers and forefathers trod. Thy sire and his have graced the throne, and loving care to us have shown. Thus blessed shall we and ours remain, yea, still more blessed in Rama's reign. No more of dainty fare we need, and but one cherished object heed, that we may see our prince today invested with imperial sway. Such were the words and pleasant speech that Rama heard, unmoved, from each of the dear friends around him spread. As onward through the street he sped, for none could turn his eye or thought from the dear form his glances sought, with fruitless ardor forward cast even when Raghu's son had passed. And he who saw not Rama nigh, nor caught a look from Rama's eye, a mark for scorn and general blame, reproached himself in bitter shame. For to each class his equal mind with sympathy and love inclined most fully of the princely four, so greatest love to him they bore. His circling course the hero bent round shrine and altar, reverent, round homes of gods, where crossroads met, where many a sacred tree was set. Near to his father's house, he drew like Indra's beautiful to view, and with the light his glory gave within the royal palace drave. Through 3 broad courts, where bowmen kept their watch and ward, his coursers swept. Then through the 2 remaining went on foot the prince praeminent. Through all the courts the hero passed, and gained the lady's bower at last, then through the door alone withdrew, and left without his retinue. When thus the monarch's noble boy had gone his sire to meet, the multitude, elate with joy, stood watching in the street, and his return with eager eyes expected at the gates, as for his darling moon to rise the king of rivers. 285, waits. Canto 18. The sentence. With hopeless eye and pallid mien, there sat the monarch with the queen. His father's feet with reverence dewy clasped, and touched Kaikeyí s2. The king, with eyes still brimming o'er, cried Rama, and could do no more. His voice was choked, his eye was dim, he could not speak or look on him. Then sudden fear made Rama shake, as though his foot had roused a snake, soon as his eyes had seen the change, so mournful, terrible, and strange. For there his reason well nigh fled, sighing, with soul disquieted, to torturing pangs a prey, dismayed, despairing, and distraught. In a fierce whirl of wildering thought the hapless monarch lay, like ocean waving garlanded storm-driven from his tranquil bed, the sun-god in eclipse, or like a holy seer, heart-stirred with anguish, when a lying word has passed his heedless lips. The sight of his dear father, pained with woe and misery unexplained, filled Rama with unrest, as ocean's pulses rise and swell when the great moon he loves so well shines full upon his breast. So grieving for his father's sake, to his own heart the hero spake, "Why will the king my sire today no kindly word of greeting say? At other times, though wroth he be, his eyes grow calm that look on me. Then why does anguish wring his brow to see his well-beloved now? Sick and perplexed, distraught with woe, to Queen Kaikeyí bowing low, while pallor o'er his bright cheeks spread, with humble reverence he said, "What have I done, unknown, amiss to make my father wroth like this? Declare it, O dear queen, and win his pardon for my heedless sin. Why is the sire I ever find filled with all love today unkind? With eyes cast down and pallid cheek this day alone he will not speak. Or lies he prostrate 'neath the blow of fierce disease or sudden woe? For all our bliss is dashed with pain, and joy unmixed is hard to gain. Does stroke of evil fortune smite dear Burret, charming to the sight, or on the brave Satrugna fall, or consorts, for he loves them all? Against his words when I rebel, or fail to please the monarch well, when deeds of mine his soul offend, that hour I pray my life may end. How should a man to him, who gave his being and his life, behave? The sire to whom he owes his birth should be his deity on earth. Hast thou, by pride and folly moved, with bitter taunt the king reproved? Has scorn of thine or cruel jest to passion stirred his gentle breast? Speak truly, queen, that I may know what cause has changed the monarch so." Thus by the high-souled prince addressed, of Raghu's sons the chief and best, she cast all ruth and shame aside, and bold with greedy words replied, "Not wrath, O Rama, stirs the king, nor misery stabs with sudden sting. One thought that fills his soul has he, but dares not speak for fear of thee. Thou art so dear, his lips refrain from words that might his darling pain. But thou, as duty bids, must still the promise of thy sire fulfill. He who to me in days gone by vouchsafed a boon with honors high, dares now, a king, his word regret, and caitiff-like disowns the debt. The Lord of men his promise gave to grant the boon that I might crave, and now a bridge would idly throw when the dried stream has ceased to flow. His faith the monarch must not break in wrath, or e'en for thy dear sake. From faith, as well the righteous know, our virtue and our merits flow. Now be they good or be they ill, do thou thy father's words fulfill, swear that his promise shall not fail, and I will tell thee all the tale. Yes, Rama, when I hear that thou hast bound thee by thy father's vow, then, not till then, my lips shall speak, nor will he tell what boon I seek." He heard, and with a troubled breast this answer to the queen addressed, "Ami, dear lady, canst thou deem that words like these thy lips beseem? I, at the bidding of my sire, would cast my body to the fire, a deadly draught of poison drink, or in the waves of ocean sink. If he command, it shall be done, my father and my king in one." Then speak, and let me know the thing so longed for by my lord the king. It shall be done, let this suffice, Rama ne'er makes a promise twice. He ended. To the princely youth who loved the right and spoke the truth, cruel, abominable came the answer of the ruthless dame. When gods and titans fought of yore, transfixed with darts, and bathed in gore, 2 boons to me thy father gave for the dear life, 'twas mine to save. Of him I claim the ancient debt, that Burrit on the throne be set. And thou, O Rama, go this day to D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K forest far away. Now Rama, if thou wilt maintain thy father's faith without a stain, and thine own truth and honor clear, then, best of men, my bidding hear. Do thou thy father's word obey, nor from the pledge he gave me stray. Thy life in D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K forest, spend, till 9 long years and 5 shall end. Upon my Burrit's princely head let consecrating drops be shed, with all the royal pomp for thee made ready by the king's decree. Seek D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K forest, and resign rights that would make the empire thine, for twice 7 years of exile, where the coat of bark and matted hair. Then in thy stead let Burrit reign lord of his royal sire's domain, rich in the fairest gems that shine, cars, elephants, and steeds, and kine. The monarch mourns thy altered fate, and veils his brow compassionate. Bowed down by bitter grief he lies, and dares not lift to thine his eyes. Obey his word, be firm and brave, and with great truth the monarch save. While thus with cruel words she spoke, no grief the noble youth betrayed, but forth the father's anguish broke, at his dear Rama's lot dismayed. Canto 19. Rama's promise. Calm and unmoved by threatened woe, the noble conqueror of the foe answered the cruel words she spoke, nor quailed beneath the murderous stroke. Yea, for my father's promise' sake I to the wood my way will take, and dwell a lonely exile there in hermit dress with matted hair. One thing alone I fain would learn, why is the king this day so stern? Why is the scourge of foes so cold, nor gives me greeting as of old? Now let not anger flush thy cheek, before thy face the truth I speak, in hermit's coat with matted hair to the wild wood will I repair. How can I fail his will to do, friend master, grateful sovereign too? One only pang consumes my breast, that his own lips have not expressed his will, nor made his longing known that Burrit should ascend the throne. To Burrit I would yield my wife, my realm and wealth, mine own dear life. Unasked I fain would yield them all, more gladly at my father's call, more gladly when the gift may free his honor and bring joy to thee. Thus, lady, his sad heart release from the sore shame, and give him peace. But tell me, oh, I pray thee, why the Lord of men, with downcast eye lies prostrate thus, and one by one down his pale cheek the teardrops run. Let couriers to thy father speed on horses of the swiftest breed, and, by the mandate of the king, thy Burrit to his presence bring. My father's words I will not stay to question, but this very day to D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K.S. pathless wild will fare, for twice 7 years in exile there. When Rama thus had made reply, Kaikeyí's heart with joy beat high. She, trusting to the pledge she held, the youth's departure thus impelled. "'Tis well. Be messengers dispatched on coursers ne'er for fleetness matched, to seek my father's home, and lead my Burrit back with all their speed. And, Rama, as I ween that thou wilt scarce endure to linger now, so surely it were wise and good this hour to journey to the wood. And if, with shame cast down and weak, no word to thee the king can speak, forgive, and from thy mind dismiss a trifle in an hour like this. But till thy feet in rapid haste have left the city for the waste, and to the distant forest fled, he will not bathe nor call for bread." Woe! Woe! From the sad monarch burst, in surging floods of grief immersed, then swooning, with his wits astray upon the gold-wrought couch he lay, and Rama raised the aged king. But the stern queen, unpitying, checked not her needless words, nor spared the hero for all speed prepared, but urged him with her bitter tongue, like a good horse with lashes stung, she spoke her shameful speech. Serene he heard the fury of the queen, and to her words so vile and dread gently, unmoved in mind, he said, "I would not in this world remain a groveling thrall to paltry gain, but duty's path would fain pursue true, as the saints themselves are true. From death itself, I would not fly my father's wish to gratify. What deed soe'er his loving son may do to please him, think it done. Amid all duties, queen, I count this duty first and paramount, that sons, obedient, I fulfill their honored father's word and will. Without his word, if thou decree, forth to the forest will I flee, and there shall 14 years be spent mid lonely wilds in banishment. Methinks thou couldst not hope to find one spark of virtue in my mind, if thou, whose wish is still my lord, haste for this grace the king implored. This day I go, but ere we part must cheer my Sítá's tender heart, to my dear mother bid farewell, then to the woods, a while to dwell. With thee, O queen, the care must rest that Burrit hear his sire's behest, and guard the land with righteous sway, for such the law that lives for aye. In speechless woe the father heard, wept with loud cries, but spoke no word. Then Rama touched his senseless feet, and hers, for honor most unmeet, round both his circling steps he bent, then from the bower the hero went. Soon as he reached the gate, he found his dear companions gathered round. Behind him came Sumitra's child with weeping eyes, so sad and wild. Then saw he all that rich array of vases for the glorious day. Round them with reverent stops he paced, nor veiled his eye, nor moved in haste. The loss of empire could not dim the glory that encompassed him. So will the Lord of Cooling raise, 286, on whom the world delights to gaze, through the great love of all retain sweet splendor in the time of wane. Now to the exile's lot resigned, he left the rule of earth behind. As though all worldly cares he spurned, no trouble was in him discerned. The chowries that for kings are used, and white umbrella, he refused, dismissed his chariot and his men, and every friend and citizen. He ruled his senses, nor betrayed the grief that on his bosom weighed, and thus his mother's mansion sought to tell the mournful news he brought. Nor could the gay-clad people there, who flocked round Rama true and fair, one sign of altered fortune trace upon the splendid hero's face. Nor had the chieftain, mighty armed, lost the bright look all hearts that charmed, as e'en from autumn moons is thrown a splendor which is all their own. With his sweet voice the hero spoke, saluting all the gathered folk, then righteous-souled, and great in fame, close to his mother's house he came. Lakshman, a letter 1E47 the brave, his brother's peer in princely virtues, followed near, sore troubled, but resolved to show no token of his secret woe. Thus to the palace, Rama went where all were gay with hope and joy, but well he knew the dire event that hope would mar, that bliss destroy. So to his grief he would not yield lest the sad change their hearts might rend, and, the dread tiding unrevealed, spared from the blow each faithful friend. Canto 20. Kausalia's lament. But in the monarch's palace, when sped from the bower that lord of men, up from the weeping women went a mighty wail and wild lament. Ah, he who ever freely did his duty ere his sire could bid, our refuge and our sure defense, this day will go in exile hence. He on Kausalya loves to wait most tender and affectionate, and as he treats his mother, thus from childhood has he treated us. On themes that sting he will not speak, and when reviled is calm and meek. He soothes the angry, heals offense, he goes today in exile hence. Our lord the king is most unwise, and looks on life with doting eyes, who in his folly casts away the world's protection, hope, and stay. Thus in their woe, like kine bereaved of their young calves, 287 the ladies grieved, and ever as they wept and wailed with keen reproach the king assailed. Their lamentation, mixed with tears, smote with new grief the monarch's ears, who, burnt with woe too great to bear, fell on his couch and fainted there. Then Rama, smitten with the pain his heaving heart, could scarce restrain groaned like an elephant, and strode with Lakshman, a letter 1E47 to the queen's abode. A warder there, whose hoary eld in honor high by all was held, guarding the mansion, sat before the portal, girt with many more. Swift to their feet the warders sprang, and loud the acclamation rang, "Hail, Rama!" As to him they bent, of victor chiefs preeminent. One court he passed, and in the next saw, masters of each Veda text, a crowd of Brahmins, good and sage dear to the king for lore and age. To these he bowed his reverent head, thence to the court beyond he sped. Old dames and tender girls, their care to keep the doors, were stationed there. And all, when Rama came in view, delighted to the chamber flew, to bear to Queen Kausalia's ear the tidings that she loved to hear. The queen, on rites and prayer intent, in careful watch the night had spent, and at the dawn, her son to aid, to vish letter 1e47 holy offerings made. Firm in her vows, serenely glad, in robes of spotless linen clad, as texts prescribe, with grace implored, her offerings in the fire she poured. Within her splendid bower he came, and saw her feed the sacred flame. There oil and grain and vases stood, with wreaths and curds and cates and wood, and milk and sesamum and rice, the elements of sacrifice. She, worn and pale with many a fast and midnight hours in vigil past, in robes of purest white arrayed, to Lakshmi queen drink offerings paid. So long away, she flew to meet the darling of her soul, so runs a mare with eager feet to welcome back her foal. He with his firm support upheld the queen, as near she drew, and by maternal love impelled, her arms around him threw. Her hero son, her matchless boy, she kissed upon the head, she blessed him in her pride and joy with tender words, and said, "Be like thy royal sires of old, the nobly good, the lofty souled. Their lengthened days and fame be thine, and virtue, as beseems thy line. The pious king, thy father, see true to his promise made to thee. That truth thy sire this day will show, and regent's power on thee bestow." As she spoke, he took the proffered seat, and as she pressed her son to eat, raised reverent bands, and, touched with shame, made answer to the royal dame. "Dear lady, thou hast yet to know that danger threats and heavy woe, grief that will with sore distress on Sítá, thee, and Lakshman a letter 1e47 press. What need of seats have such as I? This day to D, a letter 1e47 letter 1e0d, a K would I fly. The hour is come, a time unmeet for silken couch and gilded seat. I must to lonely wilds repair, abstain from flesh, and living there on roots, fruit, honey, hermit's food, pass twice 7 years in solitude. To Burrit's hand the king will yield the regent power I thought to wield, and me, a hermit, will he send my days in D, a letter 1e47 letter 1e0d, a K wood to spend. As when the woodman's axe has lopped a sal branch in the grove, she dropped, so from the skies a goddess falls ejected from her radiant halls. When Rama saw her lying low, prostrate by too severe a blow around her form, his arms he wound, and raised her fainting from the ground. His hand upheld her like a mare who feels her load too sore to bear, and sinks upon the way ordered, and all her limbs with dust are soiled. He soothed her in her wild distress, with loving touch and soft caress. She, meet for highest fortune, eyed the hero watching by her side, and thus, while Lakshman a letter 1e47 bent to hear, addressed her son with many a tear. "If, Rama, thou had ne'er been born my child to make thy mother mourn, though reft of joy, a childless queen, such woe as this I ne'er had seen. Though to the childless wife there clings one sorrow armed with keenest stings, no child have I, no child have I, no second misery prompts the sigh. When long I sought, alas, in vain my husband's love and bliss to gain, in Rama all my hopes I set, and dreamed I might be happy yet. I of the consorts first and best must bear my rivals' taunt and jest, and brook, though better far than they, the soul-distressing words they say. What woman can be doomed to pine in misery more sore than mine, whose hopeless days must still be spent in grief that ends not and lament? They scorned me when my son was nigh, when he is banished I must die. Me, whom my husband never prized, Kaikeyí's retinue despised with boundless insolence, though she tops not in rank nor equals me. And they who do me service yet, nor old allegiance quite forget, whene'er they see Kaikeyí's son, with silent lips my glances shun. How, O my darling, shall I brook each menace of Kaikeyí's look, and listen, in my low estate, to taunts of one so passionate? For 17 years since thou wast born I sat and watched, me, forlorn, hoping some blessed day to see deliverance from my woes by thee. Now comes this endless grief and wrong, so dire I cannot bear it long, sinking, with age and sorrow worn, beneath my rivals' taunts and scorn. How shall I pass in dark distress my long lone days of wretchedness without my Rama's face, as bright as the full moon to cheer my sight? Alas, my cares thy steps to train, and fasts and vows and prayers are vain. Hard, hard, I ween, must be this heart to hear this blow nor burst apart, as some great river bank, when first the floods of rain time on it burst. No, fate that speeds not will not slay, nor Yama's halls vouchsafe me room. Or, like a lion's weeping prey, death now had borne me to my doom. Hard is my heart and rod of steel that breaks not with the crushing blow. Or in the pangs, this day, I feel my lifeless frame had sunk below. Death waits his hour, nor takes me now. But this sad thought augments my pain, that prayer and largess, fast and vow, and heavenward service are in vain. Ah me, ah me. With fruitless toil of rites, austere a child I sought. Thus seed cast forth on barren soil still lifeless lies, and comes to naught. If ever wretch by anguish grieved before his hour to death had fled, I mourning, like a cow bereaved, had been this day among the dead. Canto 21. Kausalya calmed. While thus Kausalya wept and sighed, with timely words sad Lakshman a letter 1E47 cried. O honored queen, I like it ill that, subject to a woman's will, Rama his royal state should quit, and to an exile's doom submit. The aged king, fond, changed, and weak, will, as the queen compels him, speak. But why should Rama, thus, be sent to the wild woods in banishment? No least offense I find in him, I see no fault his fame to dim. Not one in all the world I know, not outcast wretch, not secret foe, whose whispering lips would dare assail his spotless life with slanderous tale. Godlike and bounteous, just sincere and to his very foeman dear, who would without a cause neglect the right, and such a son reject? And if a king such order gave, in second childhood, passion's slave, what son within his heart would lay the senseless order and obey? Come Rama, ere this plot be known, stand by me and secure the throne. Stand like the king who rules below, stand aided by thy brother's bow. How can the might of meaner men resist thy royal purpose then? My shafts, if rebels court their fate, shall lay Ayodhyá desolate. Then shall her streets with blood be dyed of those who stand on Bharat's side. None shall my slaughtering hand exempt, for gentle patience earns contempt. If by Kaikeyí's counsel changed, our father's heart be thus estranged, no mercy must our arm restrain. But let the foe be slain, be slain. For should the guide, respected long, no more discerning right and wrong turn in forbidden paths to stray, 'tis meet that force his steps should stay. What power sufficient can he see, what motive for the wish has he, that to Kaikeyí would resign the empire which is justly thine? Can he, O conqueror of thy foes, thy strength and mine in war oppose? Can he entrust, in our despite, to Bharat's hand thy royal right? I love this brother with the whole affection of my faithful soul. Yea, queen, by bow and truth I swear, by sacrifice and gift and prayer, if Rama to the forest goes, or where the burning furnace glows, first shall my feet the forest tread, the flames shall first surround my head. My might shall chase thy grief and tears, as darkness flies when morn appears. Do thou, dear queen, and Rama too, behold what power like mine can do. My aged father I will kill, the vassal of Kaikeyí's will, old, yet a child, the woman's thrall, infirm and base, the scorn of all. Thus Lakshman, a letter 1E47 cried, the mighty souled, down her sad cheeks the torrents rolled, as to her son Kausalya spake. Now thou hast heard thy brother, take his counsel if thou hold it wise, and do the thing his words advise. Do not, my son, with tears I pray, my rival's wicked word obey, leave me not here consumed with woe, nor to the wood an exile go. If thou, to virtue ever true, thy duty's path would still pursue, the highest duty bids thee stay, and thus thy mother's voice obey. Thus Kasyap's great ascetic son a seat among the immortals won. In his own home, subdued, he stayed, and honor to his mother paid. If reverence to thy sire be due, thy mother claims like honor too, and thus I charge thee, O my child, thou must not seek the forest wild. Ah, what to me were life and bliss, condemned my darling son to miss. But with my Rama near, to eat the very grass itself were sweet. But if thou still wilt go and leave thy hapless mother here to grieve, I from that hour will food abjure, nor life without my son endure. Then it will be thy fate to dwell in depth of world-detested hell. As ocean in the olden time was guilty of an impious crime that marked the lord of each fair flood as one who spills a Brahman's blood. 288. Thus spake the queen, and wept and sighed, then righteous Rama thus replied. I have no power to slight or break commandments which my father spake. I bend my head, dear lady, lo forgive me, for I needs must go. Once a letter 1E47 du. Mighty saint, who made his dwelling in the forest shade, a cow, and duty's claims he knew, obedient to his father slew. And in the line from which we spring, when ordered by their sire the king, through earth the sons of Sagar cleft, and countless things of life bereft. 289, so Jamadagni's son, 290, obeyed his sire, when in the wood he laid his hand upon his axe, and smote through Renuka his mother's throat. The deeds of these and more beside. Peers of the gods, my steps shall guide, and resolute will I fulfill my father's word, my father's will. Nor I, O queen, unsanctioned tread this righteous path, by duty led, the road my footsteps journey o'er was traversed by the great of yore. This high command which all accept shall faithfully by me be kept, for duty ne'er will him forsake, who fears his sire's command to break. Thus to his mother wild with grief, then thus to Lakshm a letter 1E47 spake the chief of those by whom the bow is bent, mid all who speak, most eloquent. I know what love for me thou hast, what firm devotion unsurpassed, thy valor and thy worth I know, and glory that appalls the foe. Blessed youth, my mother's woe is great, it bends her 'neath its matchless weight. No claims will she, with blinded eyes of truth and patience recognize. For duty is supreme in place, and truth is duty's noblest base. Obedient to my sire's behest, I serve the cause of duty best. For man should truly do whate'er to mother, Brahman, sire, he swear. He must in duty's path remain, nor let his word be pledged in vain. And, O my brother, how can I obedience to this charge deny? Kaikeyí's tongue my purpose spurred, but 'twas my sire who gave the word. Cast these unholy thoughts aside which smack of war and warrior's pride, to duty's call, not wrath attend, and tread the path which I commend. Rama by fond affection moved his brother Lakshm, a letter 1E47 thus reproved. Then with joined hands and reverent head again to Queen Kausalya said, I needs must go, do thou consent, to the wild wood in banishment. O give me, by my life I pray, thy blessing ere I go away. I, when the promised years are o'er, shall see Ayodhya's town once more. Then, mother dear, thy tears restrain, nor let thy heart be wrung by pain. In time my fathers will abade, shall I return from greenwood shade. My dear Vidhin, thou, and I, Lakshm a letter 1E47 Sumatra, feel this tie, and must my father's word obey as duty bids that rules for I. Thy preparations now forego, and lock within thy breast thy woe, nor be my pious wish withstood to go in exile to the wood. Calm and unmoved the prince explained his duty's claim and purpose high. The mother life and sense regained, looked on her son and made reply. If reverence be thy father's due, the same by right and love is mine, go not, my charge I thus renew, nor leave me here in woe to pine, what were such lonely life to me, rights to the shades or deathless lot. More dear, my son, 1 hour with thee than all the world where thou art not. As bursts to view, when brands blaze high, some elephant concealed by night, so, when he heard his mother's cry, burnt Rama's grief with fiercer might. Thus to the queen, half senseless still, and Lakshm a letter 1E47, burnt with heartfelt pain true to the right, with steadfast will, his duteous speech he spoke again. Brother, I know thy loving mind, thy valor and thy truth I know, but now to claims of duty blind thou and my mother swell my woe. The fruits of deeds in human life make love, gain, duty, manifest, dear when they meet as some fond wife with her sweet babes upon her breast. But man to duty first should turn whene'er the three are not combined, for those who heed but gain we spurn, and those to pleasure all resigned. Shall then the virtuous disobey hosts of an aged king and sire, though feverish joy that father sway, or senseless love or causeless ire? I have no power, commanded thus, to slight his promise and decree, the honored sire of both of us, my mother's lord and life is he. Shall she, while yet the holy king is living on the right intent, shall she, like some poor widowed thing, go forth with me to banishment? Now, mother, speed thy parting son, and let thy blessing soothe my pain, that I may turn, mine exile done, like King Yayati, home again. Fair glory and the fruit she gives, for lust of sway I ne'er will slight. What, for the span immortal lives? Were rule of faith without the right? He soothed her thus, firm to the last his counsel to his brother told, then round the queen in reverence passed, and held her in his loving hold. Canto 22. Lakshman calmed. So Rama kept unshaken, still his noble heart with iron will. To his dear brother next he turned, whose glaring eyes with fury burned, indignant, panting like a snake, and thus again his counsel spake. Thine anger and thy grief restrain, and firm in duty's path remain. Dear brother, lay thy scorn aside, and be the right thy joy and pride. Thy ready zeal and thoughtful care to aid what rights should grace the air. These, tease another's now to ask. Come, gird thee for thy noble task, that Burrett's throning rights may he graced with the things prepared for me. And with thy gentle care provide that her fond heart, now sorely tried with fear and longing for my sake, with doubt and dread may never ache. To know that thoughts of coming ill 1 hour that tender bosom fill with agony and dark despair is grief too great for me to bear. I cannot, brother, call to mind one willful fault or undesigned, when I have pained in anything my mother's or my sire the king. The right my father keeps in view, in promise, word, and action true, let him then all his fear dismiss, nor dread the loss of future bliss. He fears his truth herein will fail, hence bitter thoughts his heart assail. He trembles lest the rights proceed, and at his pangs my heart should bleed. So now this earnest wish is mine, the consecration to resign, and from this city turn away to the wild wood with no delay. My banishment today will free Kaikeyí from her cares, that she at last contented and elate may Burrett's throning celebrate. Then will the lady's trouble cease, then will her heart have joy and peace, when wandering in the wood I wear deerskin and bark and matted hair. Nor shall by me his heart be grieved whose choice approved, whose mind conceived this counsel which I follow. No, forth to the forest will I go. 'Tis fate, Sumitra's son, confess, that sends me to the wilderness. 'Tis fate alone that gives away to other hands the royal sway. How could Kaikeyí's purpose bring on me this pain and suffering, were not her change of heart decreed by fate whose will commands the deed? I know my filial love has been the same throughout for every queen, and with the same affection she has treated both her son and me. Her shameful words of cruel spite to stay the consecrating rite, and drive me banished from the throne, these I ascribe to fate alone. How could she, born of royal race, whom nature decks with fairest grace, speak like a dame of low degree before the king to torture me? But fate, which none may comprehend, to which all life must bow and bend, in her and me its power has shown, and all my hopes are overthrown. What man, Sumitra's darling, may contend with fate's resistless sway, whose all-commanding power we find our former deeds alone can bind? Our life and death, our joy and pain, anger and fear, and loss and gain, each thing that is, in every state, all is the work of none but fate. E'en saints, inspired with rigid zeal, when once the stroke of fate they feel, in sternest vows no more engage, and fall enslaved by love and rage. So now the sudden stroke whose weight descends unlooked for, comes of fate, and with unpitying might destroys the promise of commencing joys. Weigh this true counsel in thy soul, with thy firm heart thy heart control. Then, brother, thou wilt cease to grieve for hindered rights which now I leave. So cast thy needless grief away, and strictly my commands obey. Those preparations check with speed, nor let my throning rites proceed. Those urns that stand prepared to shed king-making drops upon my head, shall, with their pure lustrations now inaugurate my hermit's vow. Yet what have I to do with things that touch the state and pomp of kings? These hands of mine shall water take to sanctify the vow I make. Now Lakshman, a letter 1E47, let thy heart no more my fortune changed and lost deplore. A forest life more joys may bring than those that wait upon a king, now though her art's successful, mar my consecrating rite. Let not the youngest queen too far thy jealous fear excite. Nor let one thought suggesting ill upon our father fall, but let thy heart remember still that fate is lord of all. Canto 23. Lakshman's anger. Thus Rama to his brother said, and Lakshman, a letter 1E47, bent his drooping head. In turns by grief and pride impelled, a middle course of thought he held, then in a frown of anger, bent his brows that chief most excellent, and like a serpent in his hole, breathed fierce and fast in wrath of soul. His threatening brows so darkly frowned, his eyes so fiercely glanced around, they made his glare, which none might brook, like some infuriate lion's look. Like some wild elephant, full oft he raised and shook his hand, 291 aloft. Now turned his neck to left and right, now bent, now raised its stately height. Now in his rage that soared he felt which mangling wounds to foemen dealt, with sidelong glance his brother eyed, and thus in burning words replied. Thy rash resolve, thy eager haste, thy mighty fear, are all misplaced. No room is here for duty's claim, no cause to dread the people's blame. Can one as brave as thou consent to use a coward's argument? The glory of the warrior race, with craven speech his lips debase. Can one like thee so falsely speak, exalting fate, confess so weak? Canst thou, undoubting, still restrain suspicions of those sinful twain? Canst thou, most duteous, fail to know their hearts are set on duty's show? They with deceit have set their trains, and now the fruit rewards their pains. Had they not long ago agreed, O Rama, on this treacherous deed, that promised boon, so long retained, he erst had given and she had gained? I cannot, O my brother, bear to see another throned as heir with rights which all our people hate. Then, O, this passion tolerate. This vaunted duty which can guide thy steps from wisdom's path aside, and change the counsel of thy breast, O lofty-hearted, I detest. Wilt thou, when power and might are thine, submit to this abhorred design? Thy father's impious hest fulfill, that vassal of Kaikeyí's will. But if thou still wilt shut thine eyes, nor see the guile herein that lies, my soul is sad, I deeply mourn, and duty seems a thing to scorn. Canst thou one moment think to please this pair who live for love and ease, and gainst thy peace, as foes, allied with tenderest names their hatred hide? Now if thy judgment still refers to fate this plot of his and hers, my mind herein can ne'er agree, and oh, in this be ruled by me. Weak, void of manly pride are they who bend to fate's imputed sway, the choicest souls, the nobly great disdain to bow their heads to fate. And he who dares his fate control with vigorous act and manly soul, though threatening fate his hopes assail, unmoved through all need never quail. This day mankind shall learn aright the power of fate and human might, so shall the gulf that lies between a man and fate be clearly seen. The might of fate subdued by me this hour the citizens shall see, who saw its intervention stay thy consecrating rights today. My power shall turn this fate aside, that threatens as with furious stride, an elephant who scorns to feel, in rage unchecked, the driver's steel. Not the great lords whose sleepless might protects the worlds shall stay the right though earth, hell, heaven combine their powers, and shall we fear this sire of ours? Then if their minds are idly bent to doom thee, king, to banishment, through twice 7 years of exile they shall in the lonely forest stay. I will consume the hopes that fire the queen Kaikeyí and our sire, that to her son this check will bring advantage, making Burrit king. The power of fate will ne'er withstand the might that arms my vigorous hand. If danger and distress assail, my fearless strength will still prevail. 1,000 circling years shall flee. The forest then thy home shall be, and thy good sons, succeeding, hold the empire which their sire controlled. The royal saints, of old who reigned, for aged kings this rest ordained. These to their sons their realm commit that they, like sires, may cherish it. O pious soul, if thou decline the empire which is justly thine, lest, while the king distracted lies, disorder in the state should rise, I, or no mansion may I find in worlds to hero souls assigned, the guardian of thy realm will be, as the sea bank protects the sea. Then cast thine idle fears aside, with prosperous rites be sanctified. The lords of earth may strive in vain, my power shall all their force restrain. My pair of arms, my warrior's bow are not for pride or empty show, for no support these shafts were made, and binding up ill suits my blade, to pierce the foe with deadly breach. This is the work of all and each. But small, methinks the love I show for him, I count my mortal foe. Soon as my trenchant steel is bare, flashing its lightning through the air, I heed no foe, nor stand aghast though Indra's self the levin cast. Then shall the ways be hard to pass, where chariots lie in ruinous mass, when elephant and man and steed crushed in the murderous onslaught bleed, and legs and heads fall, heap on heap, beneath my sword's tremendous sweep. Struck by my keen brand's trenchant blade, thine enemies shall fall dismayed, like towering mountains rent in twain, or lightning clouds that burst in rain. When armed with brace and glove I stand, and take my trusty bow in hand, who then shall vaunt his might? Who dare count him a man to meet me there? Then will I loose my shafts, and strike man, elephant, and steed alike. At one shall many an arrow fly, and many a foe with one shall die. This day the world my power shall see, that none in arms can rival me. My strength the monarch shall abase, and set thee, Lord, in lordliest place. These arms which breathe the sandal's scent, which golden bracelets ornament, these hands which precious gifts bestow, which guard the friend and smite the foe, a nobler service shall assay, and fight in Rama's cause today, the robbers of thy rights to stay. Speak, brother, tell thy foeman's name, whom I, in conquering strife, may strip of followers and fame, of fortune or of life. Say, how may all this sea-girt land be brought to own thy sway? Thy faithful servant here I stand to listen and obey. Then strove the bride of Raghu's race, sad L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47's heart to cheer, while slowly down the hero's face, unchecked, there rolled a tear. The orders of my sire, he cried, my will shall ne'er oppose, I follow still, whate'er betide, the path which duty shows.